Hello, hello, hello. My name is Kyle Van Voris with Voris.com, and today I'm going to share with you a framework that you can use to better evaluate and hire a VP of sales. Let's dive right in. All right, so this video is going to be a very, very simple structure. We're going to start off by talking about creating a list of non-negotiables. Then we're going to move into the importance of sticking with your expected compensation. We're going to talk a little bit about 30, 60, 90-day plans. And finally, I'm going to end this video with a whole list of questions that you can ask a VP of sales to properly evaluate them. So first things first. You want to create your list of non-negotiables. It is shocking how often this is left out during an evaluation of VPs of sales. You're going to hear me say this a lot throughout this video. Salespeople are really good at selling themselves, and VPs of sales are in that position because often they were really good at selling in general. So for the most part, they're incredibly good at selling themselves. So you want to go into those conversations with a list of non-negotiables that you feel are incredibly important for your business, and do not budge just because you like the personality of the person that you're interviewing. Some examples here are they have experience in your industry, or maybe they have experience growing a company from your size to the size that you're trying to get in the short term here. You might want somebody who sold products like yours before. There's a lot of things that you can add to this list. Just think about it beforehand and don't compromise just because you like somebody's personality. I can't tell you enough how much turnover there is in the VP of sales position. I think the average VP of sales is in the role for 18 months. And that a lot of that has to do with their experience not lining up with what your organization needs to be successful. A classic example of this is you'll hire some big shot from Oracle for your small startup, and they're not going to be successful because they're used to having all of the resources that Oracle provides them. So just something to keep in mind here. The next thing here is stick to your expected compensation. Do the math before you even start interviewing people of what the revenue target is going to be for their sales org, and also what's going to be your cost to acquire that revenue, including what you're paying the VP of sales. Oftentimes people get so excited about a candidate that their price they're willing to pay keeps climbing up and up and up, and it absolutely destroys the unit economics for the business. Now, if you're a venture-backed startup company who's raised $30 million, maybe you don't care as much about this and you're more comfortable with a higher number, but I would encourage you, even in that case, to have the number before going into the conversations. Now, if you have a bunch of conversations with qualified candidates and you're way below what they would accept, then revisit it. But for the most part, what ends up happening is you're somewhat in the range and you get really excited about a candidate and you end up going 30, 40% higher than you anticipated just because you're really excited about a candidate. Oftentimes, it's not worth blowing out your unit economics just to hire a specific person, but sometimes it absolutely is. So you have to take the financials into account there and make sure that you have the math laid out in a way that not only do you understand, but that you're comfortable with. The next piece here is the 30, 60, 90-day plan. And this has been given some criticism, especially lately, on how effective it is to have a candidate lay out what their plan is for the first 30, 60, and 90 days. I am a huge fan of having candidates, especially VPs of sales, do a 30, 60, 90-day plan. I want to see what their expectations are from us, but also what they are going to be bringing to the table in the first 30, 60, and 90 days of their employment. You want a VP of sales who knows how to put together a plan, and a 30, 60, 90-day plan is simple enough where it'll give you a good idea on how they think. And that's ultimately what you're trying to get from doing this exercise. What's more important than even the plan they put together is their thought process behind the plan. So have them do a 30, 60, 90-day plan and scrutinize that plan, push back on certain pieces of it and see how they react, see how they justify parts of their plan, and also question, are we too aggressive or are we not aggressive enough? Push back on these things because that's where you're going to learn how that VP of sales thinks, and they may be able to use, charm and charisma to get you really excited about them as a candidate. But if they can't back that up up with real technical knowledge of what it takes to grow a sales organization, you're probably not going to want to hire that person. And this is a great way to get that out of them. Alrighty, so what questions should you ask a VP of sales candidate? Well, that's a good question. And we actually have a list of 38 questions that we give to all of our clients that they should be asking VPs of sales candidates across different interviews throughout that candidate's hiring cycle. If you'd like that list of questions, in the description below, we'll have a link to it. I'm going to go over 5 of them right now because you're not going to want to just sit here and watch a video of me reading 38 questions. So here are the top 5 that I really like asking and I think that you should have on your radar, and feel free to download the rest. The first question that I really like is, how do you create a strong sales culture? This is going to give you a good idea of how much ownership the VP of sales has in the culture that they're creating. I want to hear tactical things that they do that result in positive culture. Sometimes that culture will feel a little intangible, but there are behaviors and systems that are in place that help drive a really positive culture. I think it's important to understand how that VP of sales thinks about it. The next question I like is, what does your perfect sales org look like? I want to understand, do you have SDRs? Do you have AEs? Are sales engineers involved? How big of a part of the organization is sales operations? I really want to understand how this specific VP of sales views the perfect sales organization. The next question is, what is your specific sales management process, and what's an example of this process being effective? Real strong leaders have systems and processes that they use and execute on when they encounter situations that they need to act on. And if your VP of sales candidate does not have strong examples of them using strong leadership fundamentals to solve problems or overcome any challenges that have come up either with people or with processes, then it might not be the right candidate for you. The next question here is, how do you manage your own stress levels? This is incredibly important from my perspective because the VP of sales role is a stressful role. And if you're an earlier stage startup company and this is your first VP of sales, you want to make sure that the VP of sales, who's going to be managing your organization, especially during a stressful time, has a framework for managing their own personal stress. And it's helpful to know what that framework is. You also might learn something you could use yourself. And finally, another question that I really like here is, take me through your process on how you would coach and train a low-performing rep. Also, how would you motivate this rep? The reason why I find this question really valuable is it is easy to manage a sales team that's doing really, really well. If your sales team is hitting every single metric and everyone's excited and they're all making a ton of money, that's great. But there's always going to be times when things are difficult. And there are going to be specific reps who are going to struggle in those difficult times. Having a sales leader who's able to understand what's holding back their team from hitting their targets and also be able to pull them out of that low performing situation that they're in through strong coaching, training, and leadership, that's incredibly valuable. If somebody that you're talking to has a process for this, then they're often a very strong leader, which is someone you'd want as part of your organization. Alrighty, that's it. Those were 3 best practices and a bunch of questions. And as a quick recap, the first one, create your list of non-negotiables. The second, stick to your expected pay. And the third, make the candidate do a 30, 60, 90-day plan. I gave you a bunch of questions. If you want to see the full list of 38, you'll see it in the description down below. Go ahead and download that resource. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, if you want to watch more videos on how to improve your sales skills, check this one out.